Hi, welcome to North Penn Television. I'm your chef Cynthia Wood, and this is Meals You Can Make. This week we're doing something a little unorthodox because of what AccuWeather keeps telling us, that there may be snow in the forecast, and everybody panics and runs out to the grocery store and buys milk and bread and eggs. And I want to know what everybody's making with those three ingredients. What I hope to do today is to show you what you can do with things that you have in your cabinet or refrigerator, or should have in case of a bad weather forecast. And these have a much longer shelf life than milk or bread or eggs do. So the ingredients, if you're going to make, we're going to actually make two recipes today. If you're going to cook along, you want to have some tuna fish and some roasted peppers. You'll need an onion, either a red onion or a white onion. We're going to use a package of refrigerator pasta. You'll need to have some Pillsbury biscuits, and what else are we using? Maybe some mayonnaise, and as we go along, if there's anything major I've missed, I'll fill you in. But what I'm going to do first is kind of just tell you what you could do with these things. Tuna fish obviously has a very long shelf life because it's in a can. One thing to do if you have the Pillsbury refrigerated bread is bake the bread. That also will stay in your refrigerator for quite a while. Bake that, and then you can drain your roasted peppers and just put your flaked tuna fish in on top of your peppers. If you have an onion, you can slice that thinly, lay that in. If you have any kind of greens in your refrigerator, spinach or lettuce, salad lettuce, you can put that on, and then just drizzle some nice balsamic vinegar on that, and that makes a really nice sandwich. You can have that with a can of soup, which of course can stay in your cabinet for months, and you have a meal without having to rush out to the store and buy that milk and bread and eggs that Dave Roberts forecasts for. The thing that we're actually going to do with our tuna fish today is we're going to make it in the traditional manner with a little bit of onion and mayonnaise in it, and because we're going to try to cut back this year on some calories, we're using a low-fat mayonnaise. And then we are going to use just some regular refrigerator biscuits. And I will show you what we're going to do with that. And I'm going to move my pasta out of the way. These are great, though, and before I do move them, I'll tell you about them. This has a date to use or freeze by February 10th of '96. That's a couple of weeks away. Well, if you freeze it by then, you can keep it in there for months and use it, at least I would say a month or two, and use it later, because I've done this at home, and they're really good. This one's filled with sun-dried tomatoes. The one we're using today is a spinach pasta with cheese in it. They have smoked chicken ravioli. They're really, really good. And believe it or not, it's enough for two people, or one person, 2 servings. And if you have some bagged salad in the refrigerator, that keeps for a week or two in case of inclement weather. Or just use your little biscuits, and I'm going to show you something to do with that to go along with our pasta dish. And then while we're talking about cutting fat back and things to have at home in case of the bad weather, if you have these on hand, Knorr makes a nice little pasta sauce. These calorie-wise are not bad, 70 calories. 3.5 grams of fat. They're handy. You do need a little bit of milk to make with most of these, but if you have a little bit left, you don't have to rush out to the store. And dried pasta keeps for months and months. So if you have this on hand, if you have butter or regular Parmesan cheese in the refrigerator, you can just boil some up, put a little butter, some ground pepper and Parmesan cheese, and it's a meal. So these are things that are handy to have in case of bad weather. For your breakfast, instead of making the scrambled eggs, get oatmeal. It's one of the best foods for your heart, and this keeps for quite a long time in your cabinet. And then, if you're looking for something for dessert, something a little sweet, these also are really nice to have on hand. And I know that this is all prepared food, and I always talk about having fresh food, but if it's a really bad storm out and you can't get out, you make do with what you have, and these are healthier options for you to choose. These have 160, depending on the brand, 140 to 160 calories a package, and marshmallow cream, which you can also put with peanut butter, and make your little biscuits up and make a hot fluffernutter. This has no fat in it, and relatively few calories, 40 calories for a 2 tablespoon serving. Well, I made a mug of hot chocolate for myself last night, and I only put 1 tablespoon in, and it was plenty. So for 140 to 160 calories for the whole thing, and you only boil water to make these, it's a nice little snack on a cold, snowy night. So what I'm going to do now is move my little things out of the way, put these underneath for a minute, and I'm going to start with our tuna dish. So what I'm going to do is prep a muffin pan, and if you have your spray, nonstick spray, you're going to just spray that onto your muffin pan. Make sure you get the sides. And this is something that the kids can help you with. And if it's really bad weather outside, they're going to be in the house anyway, so you might as well give them something to do to keep them out of trouble and out of your hair. Then you take your little biscuits. Ooh. And what you're going to want to do is flatten them out a little bit. And you can do that between the palms of your hand. And then you're going to lay them over this greased muffin pan. And when we bake these, we're going to set the oven to 400 degrees, and we're going to bake them for about 10 to 12 minutes. And they're going to come out and look like little bread cups. So I'll do a couple more of these for you. You just have to be careful. If you handle this dough too much, you can spring a hole. And you don't want to do that. And another thing is, too, depending on what you have stocked in your pantry or your refrigerator, you can fill these for kids with some hot dogs and baked beans. If you have any kind of ground turkey or even ground beef, it's a little more fattening, and put some barbecue sauce in it, or just some ketchup and some brown sugar, and make like a barbecued beef and fill the cups with that. If you have any kind of cheese on hand, cheddar or something to that, or even American, chop it up or shred it, and after you've baked your muffins and filled them, you can top it with the cheese and stick them back under the broiler. But there are so many, you could fill, if you have those eggs, if you go to the store and get those eggs, you can make them for breakfast and fill them with scrambled eggs. But this is a handy, especially if you have children, it's a handy little thing, and it's something a little different on the plate when you sit down to eat. You just have to be kind of gentle. I just sprung a hole. But I don't like to drive in the snow myself, so anything that saves me from going out, I feel is a blessing in disguise. So I like to keep stuff like this on hand just in case of bad weather. And you get 10 biscuits in these packages usually. So we have to shoot one more cup. We'll put that on there. All right. And I think I will pop these in the oven now and bake them for about 10 minutes, and while they're in the oven, I will get started on the tuna. But while I put these in the oven, we'll take a really quick break so I can kind of clean up my area, and we'll come back and make some food. Stay with us.
It's only a little motor oil.
What difference is one drop of paint going to make?
This much fertilizer isn't going to pollute anything.
You're looking at a sea of excuses, created drop by people like you and me. Our waters can be saved if each of us does their part. Drop by drop. If we all do a little, we can do a lot. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Defense Council, the EPA, and the Ad Councils of the U.S. and Japan.
Welcome back. I have pulled my little biscuit cups out of the oven, and some of them, as you can see, I did not push down over the cup far enough, but they will hold the tuna. And since we're not really going to be running around with them or anything and just sitting on the plate, you can mound it in. You could even scoop it in with an ice cream scoop if you wanted to. Depending on how involved you want to get the kids with making dinner, that could be something for them to do that would be fun. But we're just going to set these aside for now. If we were going to put these back in the oven, we could put our tuna right into them and put our cheese on and pop them under the broiler for about a half a minute for the cheese to melt. But since we're going to wait until we've completed everything before we plate it, we'll just set these aside for now out of the way. and I have started my tuna. I like to use the solid white tuna in water, just because I think it has a better flavor. Some of the the chunk light or the regular tuna, it's a little fishier. So you want to get it in water too for the fat reasons, the calorie reasons. So we've drained the water off of this, and we are just going to flake it up. Now, if you have relish on hand and you want to add that, I like relish, sweet relish. Or if you have sweet pickles, you can chop those up and add those in. We're just going to put a little bit of red onion in, because onions you can keep in your kitchen as long as they're in a cool place. You don't want to really refrigerate them, though. I don't like mine refrigerated. But keep them someplace where it's cool and dry, and if you keep them away from your potatoes, because if they're with the potatoes, they both have a tendency to rot more quickly. There's some kind of a chemical interaction. So we are going to chop up a little bit of red onion and toss this in. If you have celery in the refrigerator, you can also chop that finely and add that in, and if not, it's no big deal. This is just something so that you have sustenance on a winter night without having to go out and bang down the doors at the grocery store. So we're just going to mix that up with this onion's for our other thing. And I actually have 2 cans of tuna in this bowl. If you're wondering why it looks more than you're used to seeing come out of 1 can, that's why. And we'll mix this up a little bit. And you could do this ahead of time too if you're going to make it for dinner that night, if you're home all day and you're doing something with the kids or reading a good book or just trying to keep warm, because then the flavor has time to blend together. Then we have our low-fat mayonnaise, and mayonnaise and salad dressing are different things. Miracle Whip is an example of a salad dressing. Mayonnaise tends to be more rich, but some of the low-fat or even fat-free mayonnaises that are out on the market right now are actually very good. But the idea behind it is you don't want it swimming in mayonnaise, you just want to give it enough that it binds it all together. So I'm going to start with about 2 little spoonfuls. So about 2 tablespoons actually, and stir this up. Sometimes it's better to use a fork. I'm using a spoon, but a fork tends to break up the tuna a little bit more and helps it blend, unless you like big chunks of tuna. I actually know someone that eats tuna right out of the can, but I wouldn't do that. Now see, that's actually wet enough, unless you're trying to camouflage it from somebody, and then you can add more mayonnaise. Maybe we will add just a tad more. Mix this together. And then when we go to serve it, we're just going to put it right into our little cups. So I'm going to set this aside for now. We're done with our mayonnaise. Get that out of the way. Now we have some more red onion, and what I have here, and if you were watching the ingredients list during the week, I don't think I remembered to mention this, but this is something that I just happen to have on hand right now in my refrigerator because of the fact that there are some weekends coming up where some sporting events are on. You might have pepperoni, which is a little higher in fat, or things of that nature, some type of a sausage or meat. This happens to be a low-fat smoked turkey sausage. It's already cooked because it's smoked. So you really could eat it just like this. But I have, and this is only about maybe a little bit more than 1/3 of the package. It comes like ring bologna. It's a pretty large package. But I have this, and I've already chopped it. You don't have to take the skin off or anything. It's just good to go as it is. And we're going to put a little bit of red onion. So I'll chop a little bit more red onion. Probably won't need that much. Now, when we started today, I was talking about the different kinds of refrigerator pasta. And the one that we're using is actually stuffed with cheese, but the pasta itself is made with spinach, and that's what gives it the color. It's still made with flour and everything else that regular pasta is made with, but cooked spinach is added as the pasta is made, and that's what gives it the color. If you see it and it's red, it has roasted peppers added into the pasta dough. These are really, really good, and it might not look like a whole lot, but I really think that with nice biscuits like we're going to make today to go with it, or if you have some salad, it's enough for a meal, especially since we're cutting back since it's the new year. So, and these only take about 5 minutes in boiling water, so we're not going to do this till the very end. So we have our onion and we have our smoked turkey sausage. We have a little bit of Parmesan cheese that we're going to add at the very end when we plate it up. And then we have some roasted peppers. So what I'm going to do, now we have to go with our tuna fish, some, I think it's Progresso, a hearty tomato soup. If you wanted to, it's not thick like a tomato sauce, but you could toss a little bit of that in with what we're doing if you were looking for some kind of a sauce, like a typical Italian gravy for your pasta. But because we're lightening up, we're not going to do that here today. What I have done is I have a little bit of butter in this pan because we're going to use it for a couple of things. So I am going to put just a little bit in here for the flavor. I'm going to put that in my frying pan. And we're going to use some olive oil because that will keep the burn level down. Oil, it takes a lot more heat before oil burns than it does for butter. Let me see if I can get this turned on. And then when this comes up to temperature, we are going to put our onions in first because we want the flavor of that to be released when it hits the hot oil. Then we're going to add this, and then we're going to put some roasted peppers in. Now, as we said in the beginning, these are also packed in water, so they're not as fattening as if they were packed in oil. If you have tuna and you don't feel like doing a traditional tuna with the mayonnaise, you could use the roasted peppers and some kind of a refrigerated bread dough and put your tuna in just plain, but drain it off. Then lay these on top of it, and then if you have any kind of fresh spinach leaves or any kind of salad, I've taken the packaged salads and just put those inside of sandwiches if I don't have anything else. Or if you have a head of lettuce, you can use that too. Whatever you have on hand. Like I said, it's better to eat what's in there than to worry about going out into the snow. So we're going to chop up some of these. You can see the char marks on these from when they were roasted. And it's fun to roast your own, and the flavor's very good. But right now, because it is winter, it's a lot more expensive to buy fresh peppers than it is to buy these. I think this jar of peppers was maybe $2.99. And to buy a pound of red peppers, it's about $4.99, I think, right now. So we're just going to cut through these. They're very soft. And a good rule of thumb to follow when you're making a pasta dish is that you don't want anything larger, or any dish, actually. If you're making shrimp, you don't want to add things to it that are larger than the shrimp. Your main ingredient should be the largest ingredient, as a rule of thumb. I mean, I'm sure there are one or two things that would come up that would dispute that, but that's a good generalization to try to follow. Like you wouldn't make shrimp and throw in huge chunks of, let's say, mango. Maybe you would dice it up and throw it in, but you wouldn't put a half of a mango in with a bunch of pretty little fan-tailed shrimp. So just like this will of course puff up our pasta, but we don't want our peppers to be a whole lot larger than our pasta. So we're going to chop through them and dice them a little more finely. And it may seem to some people who have been watching our program that I use roasted peppers a lot. It's nice, especially during this weather, to have something like this on hand because it's so hard to get fresh vegetables. And actually, as we spoke about last week in the program, if you buy frozen vegetables in the winter months anyway, you're getting as much nutritionally as you do if you buy fresh vegetables because they're frozen so quickly after they're picked that they retain a lot more of the nutrients and the minerals, vitamins that they have. So it's not really a bad thing. It's just if you can get them fresh, sometimes the flavor is better. But health-wise, you're not losing a lot to do it the other way. I just want to check this oil. Yeah, it's starting to get there. So, yes, I do like red peppers, but if you don't, pick something that you like that you can keep on hand that has a long shelf life. So our onions are starting to sizzle, so I'm going to put the rest of them in. And then, as you can see, this has a little bit of the juice on the board from that, and we're just going to dump that whole thing in, but I think I'll put these in. have a piece there that's just might be bigger than pasta. I think I'll turn up the heat a little bit. Okay, and now, while that's going, before we add our peppers, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with our little biscuits. These things are very handy to keep in your refrigerator, the little refrigerator biscuits, because you can use them for just about every meal. Now, what we're going to do to go with our pasta dish is I have some melted butter. You can use as much as you want. You don't want to do like a whole stick because they're going to get too wet and they're not going to cook up as nicely. Or you can just drizzle a little bit on the top, which is what I'm going to do. And with dinner, we're going to bake these. The temperature's 400 degrees in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, I think it says on the package. Well, just as they're getting done, we're going to pull them out, pour a little of this butter over, and sprinkle the Parmesan cheese and stick them back in the oven. Now, if it's breakfast time and you're snowed in and you're tired of the oatmeal that you've had for the last 2 days, you can also use these. The traditional way was to take the whole biscuit and dip it into melted butter and then to roll it in cinnamon and sugar that you've mixed together. Then you put them all back in the pan and it is out of this world. But since we're cutting back, what you could do is the same thing. Bake them till they're just about finished, pour your melted butter over the top, and then sprinkle cinnamon and sugar on the top. You'll get flavor. They won't get as caramelized because there won't be any cinnamon and sugar on the bottom of each biscuit, but it would still be good. It's something easy, and it's something that you'll hopefully have on hand. So I am going to start these. First I'm going to stick them in the oven, and this is on its way. So I think we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
Gee, Vince, what kind of dummy wouldn't know how to use a child safety seat?
Beats me, lads. Child's play.
You just buckle him in.
Unless he's over 20 pounds.
Then this one's good.
Except if he's over 40 pounds.
Then you're into this kind of rig.
What if he outgrows that?
Put him in a booster seat?
What if he's too big for a booster seat?
Would he use the safety belt?
The Auto Safety Hotline can tell you everything you need to know about keeping your child safe in a car.
I'm a wreck.
Totaled.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Call 1-800-424-9393.
Math, a four-letter word, right? Hey, you don't need that. Why design the world's newest jets? When you could be flipping the world's oldest burgers. Hey, wait a minute. This is math. Geometry, algebra. No pocket protectors here. But you're cruising without math. Yeah, right. Take a good look. That's math staring back at you. It's not a problem, man. It's an answer. Call NACME. We'll tell you what you need to do.
They've given our generation a label. X. Generation Nothing. They say we have no sense of purpose. They say we have no war to fight and no cause to believe in. Who are they? Join the thousands of us who are making a difference and wear a label that does mean something.
Here we are with our nice winter dinner. We have two choices, or depending on what you keep stocked in your pantry during the snow months of the year, we have some spinach pasta right here filled with cheese, and we are going to top it with our roasted red peppers, smoked turkey sausage because it's low in fat, and some nice red onion. We're just going to spoon that over. We do have a little bit of the broth from the peppers. and a little bit of the butter and oil that we added. And we have our nice biscuits, poppin' fresh biscuits that we baked and then added our little bit of melted butter to. Hope I don't burn my finger off pulling this out. With Parmesan cheese on the top. I will get a fork and pop that out. And these are really nice. Nice and crunchy on the outside, flaky. Nice biscuits to go with that. And then we have a nice hearty bowl of tomato soup and our little biscuit cups filled with tuna fish. So if the weather's bad, as you can see, these are definitely meals that you can make. Thanks for joining us here on North Penn Television. We'll see you next time.
What would you do if you had to choose between the buffalo and the giraffes? Between a flower or an elephant? What would you choose? What if you had to decide between a 100-year-old tree and a million-year-old beach? Between drinking clean water or breathing clean air? Would you make the right choice? Would there be a right choice? Now there's a way to help. Not just one, but all these things. EarthShare, the world's leading environmental groups working together. It's one choice we can all live with. Ask your employer about workplace giving.
Only you.
Can prevent forest fires.
And it's true. We know we can count on you to do what Smoky says.
Drown your campfires with water. Make sure it's totally wet. Then stir and drown again.
We know we can count on you to do what Smoky says.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
They broke the law at every turn. They had no restraint. They were rebels without a clue.
What's wrong with you guys?
Oh, compound fractures, contusions.
No, I mean, why no safety belts? It's just what dummies do. Oh, yeah? Well, this is what I do. Busted for not wearing safety belts. Hey, pal, it's the law.
Police are ticketing across the nation. Buckle your safety belt.
Do you think you have the power to change the world?
I can shape the future, one child at a time.
I know I can make a difference in those children's lives, and I know I have.
Who knows where my influence may stop?
I teach.
I teach.
I teach.
Yes, they're teachers, but to the kids they reach, they're heroes.
I think I have the power to change the world. The influence is always there.
Do you have the power to wake up young minds, to be someone's hero, to change someone's life? Reach for that power. Teach. If you want to make an impact on our future, call 1-800-45-TEACH. Want to change the world?
I teach. I teach.
I teach.
I teach. I teach. Be a teacher. Be a hero.